Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin. I'm your host. And like every Tuesday afternoon, I am joined by Mr. Chip Chirimbes and Paul Bovi. Tremendous handicappers who actually, both of them, I know I get made fun of because I'm old. Both of these guys are not only older, I think Paul's older, but they've been around longer than I have. So there you go. A lot of knowledge here is what I'm trying to tell you, folks. So,
And we
Chipper,
know how to
how are
dance.
you? How's it going, Chip?
That was really wonderful. I come off the Eagles last night. Most of my opinions around me were on the other side, but it ended up Eagles came out on top. I really don't even know how, but I'm kind of happy about that. I think Kansas City handed the game to them with a few crucial turnovers in key situations. So I'll take a win anytime because, Ross, how many times we've gotten beat on absolutely weird plays or stuff that has happened at the close when we've dominated the game. So I'll take one anytime.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy with the result because I was on the other side, but it happens. I had one of those weeks, Paul. I went 2-5 in the NFL, and we discussed that Houston game off air. I know you were on the other side of that one as well. But you lose some games you could have won, and we quickly forget we win some games like that as well, right?
Yeah, and any gambler, any longtime gambler that says all the breaks go against them, that's a square take because these things even out over time. Yeah. Time will absorb these bad breaks and it'll level out to around 50-50. Last night, I have to tell you, I love that result, not because I bet the game, but because I played the Chiefs amongst many of these win totals under the 11.5. So I now have a pulse. They have a pretty easy schedule going forward.
Yes,
and unfortunately, they do. Unfortunately, the Cincy game became pretty much a gimme with the injury to Joe Burrow. But I still think they're going to have some tough times ahead. They do play the Chargers in LA. They do play the Bills, and last year Buffalo did dominate them in a win. So you never know what happens. Maybe New England knocks them off. They play the Raiders twice. Maybe I get a break there. But we had a nice week in college football, which has been the trend. I think we went 3-1. We won another MAC game. NFL, we split them. Actually, we should have won them because I posted that Arizona game early at +4, but anybody that took it late got the 5.5, got the 6, and that was a cover. But sometimes when you post early, you don't get the best of the number. Normally I do, but in this case I did not.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud came back to earth. The kid has been phenomenal as a rookie, but he had a tough go on Sunday. I mean, look, Houston had 359 yards at the half in that game. And Arizona did a terrific job in the second half to shut him down, and C.J. Stroud helped him a little bit. He threw 3 picks, 2 of them inside the red zone, another one at around the 23-yard line of Arizona. They missed the field goal. Again, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk, and I'm glad that Paulie won. I'm glad for you, Paulie, on that one. But like Paul said, I'm an advocate of that, Paul, in Chipper. Losing a game like that, to me, those games are 50-50 over the long course of your career, okay? It's the games you win decisively against the games you miss on terribly that are the deciding factor on whether you're successful or not. So obviously, all 3 of us are still here, and we've been here for a long time. So I think that holds credence. Anyway, all right, Chipper, we're going to get to 3 NFL games on Sunday, and we're going to start. Let's start with Paulie this week. He's got a good one: the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles. I guess it's a good one. I mean, right now on paper, Philadelphia is far the superior team, but they are coming off a big win on Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're a 3.5-point favorite. The total on this game, is 48. Early returns on the new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, were good. They faced a very good Jets defense, terrible offensively, but I don't think I'll get any argument from anybody that they're definitely a top 10 defense, maybe even a top 5 defense. And Buffalo racked up a lot of yards. But it's not important what I think. It's important what you think on this matchup, Paul.
Well, I think this is a pretty easy game. I mean, Buffalo really hasn't done a great job stopping anybody. Now they have some major problems because Karen Johnson, Dane Jackson both sustained concussions in that Sunday game. And then you also add in Micah Hyde and also who's the other player that, Taylor Rapp. Taylor Rapp
Yeah.
went out of the game with a neck injury. So they got 4 guys who are going to be questionable coming into this week. Now you're taking on an Eagles team that has scored 28 or more in 5 of their games this year. 3 of them in the 20s, and then they had that one lay down against the Jets. Can you believe Zach Wilson is the only quarterback that has beaten the Eagles this year? But that's the way it is. But Philly should score some points here, and I got a feeling A.J. Brown is going to be in Jalen Hurts' ear. A.J. Brown had 5 consecutive games with 130 yards passing or more. Then it dropped down to 66 versus Dallas, and last night only 1 catch for 8 yards. So I look for a big bounce back game from him. But on the other side of the ball, the Eagles have not been sound on defense this year. They've been gashed a few times. Their secondary has definitely taken a step down from their Super Bowl year of last year. And I just think Buffalo could make some noise here. They got a big game from Shakir last week against the Jets. 3 catches, 114 yards. And they needed that because, look, Stephon Diggs was the only real target. And so you need that secondary option. And they got Gabe Davis, Shakir. Shakir actually, in the last 4 games, has caught a ball of 23 yards or more in each and every one of them. So I think Buffalo's going to score. I can't see the Eagles not scoring here. It's a letdown spot for the Eagles, of course, off that win last night. And I think 48 goes down pretty easily. This one gets to the mid-50s.
All right. So Paulie likes Buffalo in Philadelphia over the total of 48. A couple things before I get to Chipper's opinion on this game. Taylor Rapp, Sean McDermott yesterday said in the press conference, there's still a chance he's going to play on Sunday. Everything worked out. He had feeling in all his extremities. By the time he got to his press conference after the game, he was home resting already. So that's a good sign. The other good sign is, the bad thing is, amongst all the injuries you mentioned, is the one player they can ill afford to lose in the secondary is Taron Johnson, because he's a top 5 nickel cornerback in football right now. And I don't think I'll get any argument from any objective observer about that. Now, Rasul Douglas, Paul, has been a terrific pickup. I mean, he intercepted 2 balls last week, recovered a fumble. He was very good as a starting cornerback for Green Bay. And that helps their cause because they lost Tre'Davious White early on. And Christian Benford is still healthy. He's a good cornerback, not a great one, but he's a good one, just as good as Dane Jackson if Dane Jackson can't go. But all relevant points. Chipper, I don't know. Josh Allen had a good game last week. Jets defense did, I think sometimes, now that we reached this part of the season, it's like the Jets defense is a little frustrated. They're not getting any support from their offense. They're on the field way too much. And I don't know how much we could weigh in on how good Buffalo looked offensively last week.
I think they're not only frustrated, but they're overrated as well. I don't think they are the elite defense that everyone has always talked about. You just said they spend too much time on the field. Well, stop the other team from moving the ball, and then you'll get back on the field. But then, of course, you have Zach Wilson, who for the 3rd straight year set an NFL record having the lowest completion percentage among qualifying quarterbacks. So I don't know what you're going to do with the Jets. I think they're a long way away. Even if Rodgers comes back, I don't see all of a sudden that defense just dominating things. But get back to Buffalo. I think they have the ability to score here. Everything's relying on Josh Allen in the past, and a little more distribution. The Eagles, they didn't look so great offensively yesterday against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs defense looks much improved to me from what I saw. I can see them busting out on the offensive end, Brown and Hurts, who ran for 2 touchdowns, but let's see him throw the ball a little bit more often and pick up some more yardage. I can see the ball game going over, as Paulie said. But, on the side on this one, I probably have an interest, but I'm a little bit tentative, shall we say, right now, and I'll wait till the weekend.
Yeah, all good points, Chip. And the Jets defense, by the way, I'm looking at their numbers as we speak, and they're still pretty good. But again,
they're not that top 3 or 4. Or we've got Cleveland only allowing 235 yards a game. I mean, that's incredible compared to what this team's doing.
Yeah, the Jets right now, if you look at their defense, they're allowing 316 yards per game, not in the territory of Cleveland, and 20.4 points per game. But again, time of possession, they're on the field 32 minutes and 39 seconds a game. So they're not getting a lot of support from their offense.
No, they don't.
Chipper, I got to say, if they had anywhere near even an average offense, I think the conversation in terms of them being an elite stop unit takes on another course. But again, they don't have a good. Go ahead.
When I'm watching them, Ross, it doesn't seem, no matter what they've done on offense, that they don't come up with that big stop. And Pittsburgh relies on turnovers more than anything, from what I've seen, and then Dallas has got defensive scores. But I just haven't seen it this year. Maybe I'm expecting too much for them. Maybe I'm just tired of hearing how elite they are, and yet here they are where they are. So, not a big fan right now.
Hey, by the way, I was going to make one more point about this Buffalo team, okay? Because I mentioned their offense. I didn't mention their defense. They gave up 25 completions in 30 attempts to Mac Jones for 272 yards. Against Cincinnati, the Bengals went off for 21 points in the first half. Joey B put up big numbers, and they just kind of parked the bus. I don't know what they did, but Cincinnati did not score in the second half, or if they did, it was 3 points. I think it was 3 points in the second half. Defensively, against the Dolphins, they did a pretty good job, but Tua's numbers were actually okay, 25 at 35 for mid-250s, but they got a pretty solid pass rush on them, and I don't see that happening with the Eagles. And by the way, in that Miami game, they lost Terron Armstead, their left tackle, on the second series, and that's what hurt Miami that game, because Tua absorbed, I think, 4 sacks. Buffalo can't stop teams.
Well, the Bills are also number 2 in the NFL in sacks on the defensive side of the ball to counter that argument. So you can cover up a lot of deficiencies in the secondary if you have any. 2 veteran safeties Buffalo has that are aging right now. They're not at the top of their game that we've seen in years past, but still pretty damn good. My concern is stopping Philadelphia's running game. That's the biggest concern, because if they could establish the run, it sets up play action pass. And either way, it's going to be a tough game for the Bills defense. They're going to have to pressure the quarterback. And you know what? We're talking about Kansas City, Chip. I still think this is the best Kansas City defense I've seen in recent seasons.
Yes.
Now, the offense, I think we're on the other side of the discussion, Paul, when we're talking about their offense. I think their offense is, obviously, if you just look at pure data and statistics, their offense is nowhere near as explosive. But their defense, we saw it last night. They put a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts up until the last quarter, it seemed like.
Well, I want to make one point about that, because everybody's saying, well, the Chiefs don't have receivers. Let me tell you, the only difference between this year and last year is Juju Schuster. That's it. Now, Juju was a very reliable receiver. He had a completion rate, Mahomes did, to Juju of about 77%. Not for huge yardage. I think he averaged about 11 yards per reception, but that is the only difference. Plus, they're not using McKinney out of the backfield as much. He had, I think, 56 receptions last year as 19 this year. So maybe they want to look at what they're doing this year, because I don't believe Juju should make that much of a difference. And the reality is, it's not the personnel. It's the fact that they have not been holding on to the football, because you can go back to
Yeah.
that first game against the Lions where Tony dropped balls and that cost them the game. And then last night, of course, we all saw what happened.
Yeah, Kelsey dropped a couple passes, which is uncharacteristic of him last night. So it's getting contagious, I guess. You talked about
Ross,
Buffalo's wide receivers too. Wait, just 1 second here, Chip, and I
go
will
ahead,
get
Ross.
right to you. Gabe Davis has to step up for Buffalo if they're going to make a run. He's been in witness protection for probably 3/4 of the year. He had that game a couple years ago in the AFC Championship game where he went off with 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards rushing, and it was going to be a perfect compliment to Steph Diggs. He's not been. I mean, really the most reliable second option. You mentioned Shakir, but not a lot of people are talking about this rookie tight end, Dalton Kincaid. He's if you look at his production numbers over the last 4 weeks, if you're a fantasy player, you might want to take a look at that. Anyway, Chipper, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all right. It's a simple matter. A report came this morning that Kansas City leads the NFL in drop passes with 30, and they had 4 last night.
Yeah. So, Chipper, tell the folks a little bit about what you got going on this week.
Well,
with the upcoming week.
I failed to mention at the top that I lost my game of the year in the conference game of the year last week. It was the first time in over a year, and still 3-1 on the season. And I always bounce back from these games. And now we have rivalry weekend coming up this Saturday and this entire weekend. There are some huge matchups, some great games. I know I'm going to have a big play on that early game on Saturday between Ohio State and Michigan. So just follow the buy links and you'll be able to be an 8-play winner. We've been singling out that big play for years now, and I'm going to have one on Saturday for you. But very disappointing that I got beat. Was never in the game in the SEC. Read the game totally wrong. Ross, when I went to bet Tennessee, the line had opened 10.5. I was expecting to see 11 or something higher, and it was a flat 9, and I knew I was in trouble. So it's just the way it goes sometimes, and very poor read on my part, but I'm going to make up for it this weekend.
Yeah, it started out good, 75-yard run for Tennessee for a touchdown in the first play from scrimmage, and that was it. So
I should have given up first to score,
Paulie, tell the folks a little bit about what you got going on, because it's a big weekend, extended weekend with Thanksgiving. 3 NFL games on Thursday, another one on Friday. A lot of college football action on Friday and Saturday. So what do you got going on, Paul, that you can foresee?
All right, I posted 3 NFL games already, which is uncharacteristic. I normally don't post 3 games this early, but I really like this card. I like a few totals on there. I actually gave you one here, and that's obviously the comp play, and I do like that one as well. But in college, look, I posted a game on Monday, and it's a top-rated 10-dime play. Or should I say, it was posted as a 7-dime play, but it's 10 dimes because that's what I have on the game. But I'm going to give it to you right now. And the reason I'm going to give it to you is I don't want you to buy it, because I posted it at 9.5. New Mexico getting 9.5 points, and the steam followed my play because I played it at 9.5. 9 at 8.5, and it's sitting at 6.5. So I don't want to sell that to somebody, given that the line value has been sucked out. But if you want to play it and take a shot, be my guest. But I will have multiple NFL plays up there. As I mentioned, I already have 3. I should have 5. I will continue on with college, and I expect to have another big weekend. Last week we went 3-1. And we've been red hot in college, particularly the MAC. Yeah. I don't think I've lost a game in the MAC in the last few weeks. Now, there's a few games tonight. We're doing this on Tuesday. There's a few games tomorrow as well as on Wednesday. I may have one. I don't love the card, but I do like one game, and I may post it. So stay tuned.
Yeah, well, Paul, right now, number 2 in college football over the last 7 days. Number 1 over the last 30 days, number 2 over the last 60 days, and also number 3 over the last 90 days in college football. And you know what's good about this, folks? We have a Thanksgiving special going on right now. So if you buy a 3-day package from any one of us at gamblersworld.net, including us three, and you heard Paul's records, you get a 4th day for free. So get down right now, $99 for a 3-day package for Paul Bovi, and you're going to get the 4th day free. Same thing applies to Mr. Chirimbes, who's been red hot over the last 30 to 60 days. And Chip, we got a game we're going to discuss with you as well. And I'm going to let you get right to it. So, again, Chip, you're talking about the Browns and the Broncos. The Broncos red hot right now. The Browns pull off a win last week with a rookie quarterback. 2 defenses that are playing really good right now. What's your take, Chipper?
Well, it's amazing what the Broncos have done. I think I'm through betting them, though. They've come a long way, but they're not even impressive when they win. I mean, it just looks like there's just so much lacking with that team. But Cleveland at 7-3 with no quarterbacking for the most part is probably the storyline here. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to be starting for them. And I told you I didn't even think he qualified as a UCLA quarterback. 55% completion record so far this season, 44 completions on 80 attempts, 4 INTs, no touchdowns. And Ross, they're averaging 3 yards per passing attempt. This Cleveland team just has trouble moving the ball. Just over 300 yards offensively, 326. And their strength, of course, is their defense, where they only allow 243 yards a game. I don't see Denver's offense being able to move the ball on this team at all. They're 4-6 playing under. 4-6 to the over, so they're 6-4 if you play them under. Cleveland's 5-4 to the under. I just don't see it going anywhere. Denver's won 6 of the last 8 in the series. They've only covered 3 of them, though. And the last 2 times they played, now we started, you said the line on this for the total is 35.5. And I like reading numbers and comparing them from years past. The last 2 times these teams played, it was 39 and 39.5. So I think the odds makers telling you that this is going to be a low scoring game. I don't see Denver being able to put up many points. And the Browns offense is what it is. And I think it's even worse now with Dorian Thompson. I think they're going to look to run the ball and control it. The only way I can see it possibly going over, Ross, really, is if there's a turnover battle and it turns like that where teams score on defense. But Russell Wilson, in spite of all the horrendous things we said about him, comes into this season 20 pounds lighter. He's got his 2nd highest QB rating ever in his career right now at 104, 19 touchdown passes, only 4 INTs. But Ross, here's the key, and this is another reason this game's going to stay under. His career low on average per completion is like 6 yards, by 1.5 yards from his overall average for his career and from his previous low. So I think this game stays under the total, Browns and Broncos.
All right, Browns and Broncos under 35.5. And to Chip's point, the Broncos have gone under the total in 5 straight games now. You want to know why the Broncos are on a 4-game win streak, Chip, even though they're not wowing us with the eye test? Is they're plus 11 during this 4-game win streak, plus 11 turnover differential.
Yep.
So, I mean, you look at their offensive numbers. I mean, 295 last week, 300 the week before, 240 the week before that, and then they had a high of 339 against Green Bay. During
they're
this
not
4-game
impressive,
win.
that's for sure.
No, it's absolutely not. You know, the one thing, Paul, that remains consistent offensively for the Browns, albeit they didn't do well last week against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's defense can make a lot of ground games look ordinary, but their ground game's still pretty good. You know, you go back before the Pittsburgh game, 178, 113, 155, 150, 160 over a 5-game stretch before the Pittsburgh game on the ground. So the key is going to be here, if you want to take pressure off a rookie quarterback, is to establish your ground game. And your thoughts on this game, Paul?
All right, first of all, Chip brought out a really good point. I looked at Robinson and what he did on Sunday. It's amazing. 24 completions and 43 attempts for 165 yards. That's 3.8 yards per an attempt. That's not NFL type. That's not an NFL type number. It's absurd. And the Steelers defense is not all that good. They are living more on reputation than substance. The defense this year has been at times vulnerable to the run, vulnerable to the pass. So it's a game that if I had an assurance that there was only going to be one turnover, I would sign up for it. I would sign up for the under, absolutely. But with these two quarterbacks, you never know what you're going to get here. Kenny Pickett, he's susceptible to throwing a turnover, making a mistake, as is Robinson. So these kinds of numbers are very dangerous to go low on because of the possibility of a turnover. If I go low on a number like this, it's only going to be because I have weather factored in, and I don't believe that's going to be the case on Sunday. So it would be a game that I would pass on, but if I had to play it, I would go under and hold my breath.
Yeah, I said it last week, Chip, and I'll say it again. We mentioned a couple teams that lost their starting quarterback and how it's going to affect them. And I said the one team I thought that lost their starting quarterback in Cleveland, the reason – now, again, I wasn't predicting a Super Bowl run, right? But what I did say was if there's one team out there that lost their starting quarterback that can get by and be a potential playoff team, it's the Browns because of their defense and also because of their running game.
I was going to say that. I was going to add that their running game has been probably their strongest attribute on offense, without doubt. And their defense, of course, right now is the premier defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to their offensive line. I mean, they lost Nick Chubb in week 2, and they still continue to run the ball effectively. Kareem Hunt, they picked up midseason or early on, I should say, right after the Chubb injury. Right. And this kid Ford has run the ball real good as well. So again, the concern is the rookie quarterback. And again, Paul said it, average yards per attempt, 3.8 yards last week, less than 7 yards per completion too. I mean, that's atrocious. That's not helping you out at all. Once in a while, you got to stretch the field, or teams are going to, put 8 guys in the box and force you to beat you.
I tell you, Ross,
have to beat us in the air.
I don't think this Robinson is that accurate, and I don't think they want to throw the ball down the field. They want nothing but safe passes with him, is the way I see it.
I think what happened during the preseason is put way too much value on DTR. He was very, very good during the preseason, but as we well know, during the preseason, teams don't game plan for you. And secondly, I mean, his first start against Baltimore was atrocious. And even then, they weren't really game planning for him. That was a late scratch, which allowed him to play that game. And last week, they were game planning for him. And the defense really is what carried him in that game to win 13-10. And Pittsburgh's offense is terrible.
I think he was atrocious at UCLA.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, they won this in spite of him. All right. So I am going to look at, before I get to that, folks, again, reminder, all 3 of us, Thanksgiving special right now at gamblersworld.net. If you sign up for a 3-day package from any one of us, you're going to get the 4th day free. It's only $99. Big week of football coming up, an extended weekend, like I said. And we also give you our personal guarantee, even with that Thanksgiving special. If we don't win, we don't make you a profit, we're going to credit back your account the exact amount of your purchase price. So there you have it, folks. You can't get it much better than that. Sweet deal with a nice guarantee. And like I said, most times than not, that guarantee is a moot point, because if you invest with us, I should say, over an extended period of time, there's a very good chance one of us, if not all of us, is going to make you a profit over that course of time. All right, I'm going to look at my game here, and it's the Baltimore Ravens in the LA Chargers. And boy, oh boy, the Chargers, man, oh man. Look, this is a team that's 4-6, and they're much better than the record indicates. Look, 5 of their 6 losses have been by 3 points or fewer. Think about that. And when I see stuff like that, guys, I got to attribute that to the coaching. I mean, when you lose that many close games, and you're on the wrong side of that many close games as opposed to the ones you pull out, more times than not, it's a lack of discipline or poor coaching decisions. And I think there's a combination of both when it applies to the Chargers. And I think it's more the coaching than it is the lack of discipline. Now, Baltimore's coming off a 34-20 win against Cincinnati in the Thursday night game. However, big loss. We've mentioned that many times. How there's one fault with Baltimore offensively, it's the fact that their main weapon is the tight end, Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews suffered a bad ankle injury, and he's out for an indefinite period. He suffered that in that Cincinnati win. On top of that, Baltimore was very surprised to see this. Over the last 3 seasons, including this year, 0-4 straight up and against the spread as a favorite following a division win. So they don't respond very well as a favorite after beating a division opponent. The LA Chargers, off that 23-20 loss at Green Bay, they lost that game as a 3-point favorite. Again, it dropped their record to 4-6. And then once again, they lost the close game, 3 points or fewer. 5 of 6 losses in that regard have occurred within that difference of score. And the LA Chargers, I was a little surprised at this as well. 8-0 straight up and 7-1 against the spread the last 3 years from game 3 on, when they're coming off a straight up favorite loss. Now, if you've been listening to me over the last few years on this show, I'm not been a proponent of team trends. Okay. We've discussed that time and time again, but I am a proponent and take more sincere look at things when it's a team trend under the same coaching staff. And that Baltimore 0-4, obviously Harbaugh's been there for a long time. The 0-4 straight up in ATS is a favorite off a division win over the last 3 years. In this particular instance, over the last 3 years, it's been with this head coach who's much maligned, who I don't care for, but they respond well under this guy after a straight up favorite loss. And then getting back to my database, and I got a good one here for Chipper because he always counters with the glass is half empty approach. Since 2018, NFL home underdogs of 5.5 or less that have a losing record, and they're coming off a straight up favorite loss, and they're playing in the second half of the season. And they're facing an opponent like Baltimore with a win percentage of .333 or better. Obviously, the Ravens qualify in that regard with an 8-3 record, 11-0 against the spread. So Chipper, 11-0 against the spread for those home underdogs of 5.5 or less. And the only thing that you can touch upon is they're 10-1 straight up. So, which is a moot point, because you know what? If you got an angle like this in a situation like this, where the underdog not only covers every game, but they win over 90% of the time straight up, I put a lot of credence in that. And I'm going to take the Chargers here, plus the 4 against Baltimore. Chip, usually you'll come back and say, Ross, but a certain percentage of the time you're wrong. In this particular instance, there's no wrongs. So
Ross,
I'll let you.
I use these trends as well. And I think that the Chargers do just enough to get you beat. You know, they're just one of these teams. You open this by saying to me, here's this team who's better than their record. Well, we say that every year about this team. But I agree with you. I think the key problem with them is their coaching. And I expect them to come in under the number. Maybe they're not going to win the game, but most likely that would be the side that I would play.
Yeah. And again, I'm teasing you on the betting
angle. That's
betting trends. I'm not like I said, I'm not an advocate of them, Paul, but when they happen under the same regime or tenure of the head coach, the current head coach, I pay attention a little more. I guess I could say I'm not married to one aspect of handicapping. And again, the database I have, I lean on some betting angles, and there's a distinct difference, folks, between a betting angle and a betting trend. A betting trend, it applies to just one specific team. A betting angle applies to all teams in a specific situation like I just described. Any event, Paul, I know you don't adhere to most of that stuff that I just talked about, and that's okay, because we all have our different approaches. Well, what's your take on
Absolutely.
this game? Yeah.
Do you remember Linus from Charlie Brown? You guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course. All right. Remember he had that blanket that he always walked around with? Well,
Safety.
that's what Mark Andrews is to Lamar Jackson. It's his security blanket. When you lose that blanket, bad things happen. So when Mark Andrews was out the first game of the season, they struggled against the Texans, who have a below average secondary. He threw for 169 yards. It was nip and tuck at halftime, and the Ravens did pull away in the second half. And last year he was out for a game, and he threw for 133 yards against the Saints. So I think the drop off without Mark Andrews, I'm not going to say at this point it's going to be substantial, but there will be a drop off. Isaiah Likely's not a bad player. He's out of Coastal Carolina. He's had a couple respectable games along the way, but he's not Mark Andrews. So he's found some chemistry. Lamar has with Zay Jones. Zay Jones is actually the leading receiver this year by a few yards over Mark Andrews. But they're going to have some problems here. I don't think they're going to go march down the field and score at will against the Chargers. And you made a great point. The Chargers could easily be a one-loss team right now. And in the lone game that they were blown out, they were actually in it at halftime against the Chiefs. And they went scoreless in the second half and lost the game 31-17. So the Chargers have a very respectable offense, no doubt. You can run against the Ravens. Check it out. The last few games, they have been run against to the tune of 4.45 yards. I think they held the Bengals in check, but the Bengals don't have a running game. But if you do a look back beyond the Bengals, you can run against the Ravens. Eckler had a decent game on Sunday. The Chargers definitely don't have the best of running games, but if you give Justin Herbert a running game, it makes him that much more lethal when it comes to the passing game. So I think the Chargers are going to cover this game, and I think they're going to score a few points, and they may even win it. So who knows?
Yeah, Baltimore's given up 129 yards or more in 3 of their last 4 games on the ground. The Chargers are coming off their third best performance on the ground at Green Bay. They ran for 150 yards on 24 carries. That's pretty darn good. So that could definitely help a guy like Justin Herbert. Again, the kid continues to perform well, guys. I'm speaking of Herbert. And he's without his number 2 and number 3 receivers. Mike Williams went down early, and then he lost Palmer. The number 3 wideout. So that veteran there, I can't think of his name off the top of my head right.
By the way, Gerald Everett is out. Parham filled in for him on Sunday, and he dropped the pass over the middle very early on in the game. One drop of 4 huge ones, 2 of them at the goal line, which left touchdowns off the board.
Yeah. I just went brain dead. The number 1 receiver, the veteran there for the Chargers.
Odell Beckham?
Mike Williams.
No, Mike Williams is number 2. Mike Williams is out.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. Once in a while, you get a brain freeze.
I think about the other
everybody knows the ball's going to go to him, and he continues to be productive. So if you had that running game there, yeah, it's going to go a long way. And if your tight end holds on to a couple balls, that would help. But again, we talked about games going against us that we should have won. And, if over the long haul, all 3 of us believe that those games all even out over the long haul. Yeah, well, the Chargers 0-5 straight up this year in games decided by 3 points or less. All of their wins have come by 4 or more. 3 of them have been by a decisive margin. So, again, that goes to coaching. I think this guy's got to go. I think the sample size is enough for us to make that conclusion. But we'll see. Just reminding you folks, as far as I go, 33-23 since week 2 in the NFL, good for 59%, despite my 2-5 record this past week. College football, 66-44, 60% since December 2nd of last year. NBA on a nice roll since April 12th of this year, 49-29. good for 63%. And folks, all sports since August the 4th, 159 and 114, good for 58%. If you don't think that's very good, folks, I don't lay big numbers, meaning big money line numbers. So my $1,000 a game players since August the 4th have made a profit of over $34,000. So come on, 58% is pretty damn good. And I think Mr. Bovi and Mr. Chirimbes, who've been doing this longer than I have, will surely agree with me on that point, especially over a 3-month period of time. In any event, Chipper, there's a like button. And you're very good in instructing our viewers.
That's from my 8 years of high school teaching experience. I mean, that's where this comes from. Just look down at the bottom right-hand side. I think there's a like button down there. Now push it just once. I want you to push it once for us. Even though there's 3 of us, push it once.
Yeah, that's all you need to do. Push it once. It's just a small token of your appreciation for the time, work, and effort we put into giving you a quality podcast here, not only giving you free pick winners, folks, but, these conversations that we have in between the free picks and when somebody isn't on assigned a specific game, we're giving you other ideas and how to approach handicapping. And you've heard, Paul's got a different approach. Chipper's a great line reader. Paul looks at a lot of things that I don't think of sometime. And he certainly enlightens me. And I've been doing it for a while. And then myself, I have different aspects that I look at. I'm a technical guy in one sense. I'm also looking at other things. I like to read lines like Chipper does. And I've certainly learned a lot from Chip over the last 3 years when it comes to line reading. I mean that respectfully, not jokingly. So we learn from each other. You never, I don't care how long you've been doing this. You're never too old to learn something, folks, no matter what line of work you're in, and especially in this line of work. So again, we're trying to make you a smarter sports better today than you were yesterday. All right. There's also a subscribe button. And if you're watching on your PC, it's actually a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Just click on that. It's absolutely free, 100% free. There's no strings attached, folks. Just click on that. And if you're on your smart TV or your mobile device, you could see a black subscribe button right underneath. Click on that. That'll get you subscribed. I'm going to ask you to take one step further. And this is even if you have subscribed and haven't done this, go into your YouTube settings, click on the alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. You'll be notified immediately upon us publishing any of our great podcasts here on this channel. I will be back tomorrow morning with Jesse Schule discussing a couple college football games. Our live show on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Put that in your calendar. Every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, live show. You can chime in with all your comments, questions, and all of you who are brave with these archive comments that you make, bring it to the live table so we can answer you immediately. So look, guys, I wish you both a very, very happy Thanksgiving, you and your family. You have a great week this week, but your sports betting, and I'm sure you will because you guys are well dignified in this industry. And I know I'm going to have a great week this week. So until the next time, for Paul, Bovi, Chip Chirimbes, and Ross Benjamin, we like to wish each and every one of you a happy Thanksgiving. Join us tomorrow morning. But until then, take care and God bless.